Hey everybody, it's vlog time. It is finally here. My final thoughts on the Banner Saga. If you've been following me on Twitter, I've been talking about it for quite a while now. And I played it after it first came out, originally on Steam, but stopped for a little while. I was having some problems with it. Namely, that I kind of suck at strategy, tactics, RPGs. And heard it was coming to the PlayStation 4. Really wanted to play it again because I really liked it. And finally came and just been playing the ever-loving shit out of it. So got quite a bit I need to talk about, and I'm going to avoid spoilers. In fact, I'm planning on doing a Let's Play, so stay tuned for that, actually. Overall, I still like the game. I still think it's pretty good. It does have quite a few problems and a few issues that I don't particularly like, specifically for an RPG, especially a tactics RPG, and I've played a lot of tactics RPGs, namely Final Fantasy Tactics, of course, the Disgaea series. Fire Emblem is another series I've played quite a bit of. There are a lot of other tactics RPGs, of course, that are out there. This does take an interesting take on it, where it combines strategy tactics and, as others would say, the Oregon Trail sort of mentality to it, where you're traveling with a large caravan of warriors and fellow clansmen and civilians, and you're trying to survive, is kind of the storyline. You are trying to find or trying to get to a particular place where you think you'll be safe, and hopefully you can restock on supplies, your party can rest. Depending on the level of difficulty that you play it on, basically, if you play it on normal, after every single battle, if somebody dies, thankfully there's no permadeath in the game, unless if it's, through story or through a dialogue option, where some characters can die, but if you make the right decision, they'll live, and then you get to keep them in your party. Like, I actually had that happen with one of my giant characters, where in one of my previous plays, he died because I made the wrong decision. This time, when I was replaying it, I was actually able to save him and keep him in my party. Part of the problem is that you don't entirely really know where you're going, but thankfully you're not on the road for very long. A couple of my problems is that some of the combat systems don't seem to make too much sense. I mean, even after they explain it, they still don't make sense. Where everybody has armor and strength. Strength acts also as your health. And when that is depleted, that affects how much damage that you deal. But here's part of the problem. I came upon a few situations during combat where I would severely weaken Dredge, which are, your grand enemies, these giant stone monsters. And they're, really, really cool monsters. There have been a few situations where I had severely weakened their armor, and I had severely weakened their strength. Like, I remember one whose strength, I want to say, was, down to, 9 or so, right? And his armor was low as well. And then he comes up and he hits one of my Varls, which are giants, which are, supposed to be, the strongest characters in the game. And he comes up and he hits one of them for, 15 damage. And I'm thinking, how the hell is that possible? Your strength is down to 9. You should not be able to do that much damage unless, he put a lot of extra willpower into it. See, there are a lot of extra mechanics that are involved in this as well, that your characters can use willpower in order to hit harder, but his strength was down to 9. How does that make any fucking sense? Anyway, I don't like the fact that your renown that you earn from killing enemies and winning battles and making good decisions, though sometimes those decisions depend on if you'll earn renown or not. I don't like the fact that renown acts as both currency and experience distribution throughout your party. Basically, whenever somebody earns a promotion, you can spend a certain amount of renown in order to make them more powerful and give them a couple of skill points. what I find kind of annoying is that when you do promote them, you only get 2 skill points every time that you promote them. And characters can only get up to about a 5 ranking. And by that point, you're spending about 20 renown in order to get them up there. At the same time, you're having to use renown in order to buy supplies to maintain your caravan. And every time that a day goes by, or if you decide to make camp and rest so that characters can heal, that requires supplies. And basically, if you run out of supplies and you're, still on the road and days are going by, you're going to start losing clansmen and warriors. That will sometimes affect how wars turn out. It affects your morale. But all of that, for the most part, the morale and having soldiers and going to war and all that, none of that, I will admit, seems to matter. Because when battles do happen, you have no control over an actual army. Sure, you can give some orders. You can say, we're going to charge, or formations, or hold them off. In the end, it all boils down to you and your party fighting like 5 or 6 dredge. And then that's it. So that whole war mechanic actually feels pretty pointless, really, when it boils down to it. If they had a little bit more into it, if it actually affected how a battle went or anything like that, that would have a bit more meaning to it. The morale actually also feels pretty pointless too. Because morale can just kind of come and go, especially depending on a situation, a decision that you make, or if and when you decide to make camp and rest. Oh yeah, I was going to say, when you're on normal mode, when a character dies in battle, they require a couple of days of rest in order for them to heal. If you're playing on easy mode, which I had to do for my replay, they don't require any rest if they die in battle. And so what happened was, I was near the end of the game. I was probably about an hour away, literally an hour away from beating the game, and the game kept on glitching out. I was having connection problems with the cloud server because it was having problems actually maintaining my save, and I was playing on normal. And every time, and normal mode was practically punishing for me. Every battle I got into in the last probably 4 or 5 hours of the game, I was losing constantly. I was getting pounded mercilessly. Whatever I tried to do did not work. Even if it felt like I was doing okay or like I was going to win, if it would boil down to it, I would have 1 party member and 1 dredge. But we were both so damn weakened that we can only do maybe a point of damage, and then that dredge would just slowly get closer and then take me out, and I would lose. Thankfully, though, there is no game over. It's just that, oh, you lost? Okay, well, you lose some supplies and you lose some of your army, and you don't really gain any renown for anything that you did. And you kind of scrape on by, pretty much. What did happen during the last scrap was I got sort of a game over screen where we lost this big epic battle. Not the final battle, but we lost a pretty significant battle where we were trying to maintain a city. And I got, the screen saying that your army has been defeated, you lay weakened upon the ground, a dredge stands over you about to perform the killing blow. And the game comes up with this little icon saying, would you like to go back to your last save? Would you like to go back to the title screen? Da, da, da. I say go back to my save. It just holds on this screen for a while and doesn't let me do anything else. The game glitched out. And what happened was my previous save took me like 3 steps back to things that I had already done and had to repeat. So I decided, fuck it, I'll just start a new game. And that's the thing, you only really have 1 save. There are no multiple saves. You can really only do like 1 game. And then if you do a new game, it's just going to overwrite it. There is no New Game Plus. And I played through again on easy and actually had a much better time this time around. This time, fighting actually felt satisfying, and I mean, I only actually lost one battle this time around, as opposed to, because when you first start out, you know, there are two varying different parties that you get to play as. The other you play as for the rest of the story. The first part is kind of tutorial and setting it up and, you know, building the mood of the game. And then the other one, you know, brings you into the crux of what the entire game and story is supposed to be about. Obviously, the game is meant to be that hard because it's supposed to signify that, you know, these are hard times, this is a very harsh world, and these are very powerful enemies that you're fighting. I understand that. I get that. But there's a difference between a game being challenging and punishingly hard to the point where I'm not having any fun. And I'm just scraping by barely with what I have. There were points where I had no supplies for days on end, and characters were just, civilians and such were just dying constantly, and I'm constantly begging for renown just so I can, you know, buy more supplies. I couldn't even afford to promote any of my characters and make any of them more powerful. Mostly because I barely even had enough renown to do that. And I was having no fun. Anytime we got into combat, I was dreading it, because I knew I'm going to get my ass kicked. And no matter what I tried to do, I still lost. Then on easy mode, I was actually having fun. Yeah, I still lost some characters, but I didn't lose as many fights. Again, I only lost one, and I actually felt like I'm doing good, and I was utilizing all my team members, and I was enjoying the story, I was enjoying the characters, and I was enjoying all of that, and I was paying close attention to the level up system and how I empower my characters and make them stronger in more particular areas. And yeah, so despite my complaints, I do very much like the game. I would recommend it. I would say, though, might be better to get it on PC, because some of the controls, you know, for when you're trying to move characters around or trying to select things can get a little dodgy sometimes, because you have to use the analog stick specifically. You can use the gamepad for some selections, but it won't let you select everything. So you have to use the analog, and that can get pretty dicey when you're trying to move a character on the grid and you're trying to move them to a specific spot, but if you push in a particular different direction, it'll go, oh, you want to go over here? No, I want to go over here. You know, and so that was a tad annoying. I also had a couple of weird bugs where the game wouldn't save, and the game auto-saves. You don't actually create your own save. That's something that needs to be changed. No more auto-saving. How about just proper, give me the option to save. I would prefer that. Where there was a part where the game didn't save, and I was supposed to have a dialogue option, and nothing happened. And I was in the final city of the game. No dialogue option was happening, and every time I clicked on to look at my map or to look at my heroes, nothing would happen. I would just stay on this screen. So I had to go all the way back to the title, go back to the game, and it took me back to before the battle. I had to repeat the battle again. Thankfully, though, it was a battle I had already won. It was just irritating, the fact that I had to repeat it. And every once in a while, I would get some text that would linger on the screen, like even after I had passed it. Like, I had a previous battle where you'll get notifications after battles or after wars where telling you what you lost or what you gained, da-da-da. And I had a notification of you lost like some odd amount of Varl, and it stayed on the screen. Now, yeah, it's a tiny little bit of text. It's, you know, it'd be something like this. You know, just kind of lingering there in the middle of the screen. Thankfully, though, it was see-through text. it was light blue, so it was fairly unnoticeable. Then another point, a big text to dialogue, with a big red background comes up that looked like this in a way that covers up this much of the screen, and it lingered there until a battle started. That was a tad irritating, so had to restart the game and go back to that. And a lot of those text problems were happening at the last hour mark of the game. Despite my complaints, my other one complaint is that I don't like the fact that after you move a character, you can't take that move back. That once you move them, that you're committed to that. I really don't like that, because if you move them to a wrong spot or anything like that, it kind of fucks up your strategy or your tactic. Yeah, it does obviously just mean that you need to pay a little bit more attention. It would just be nice if you could correct your mistake. They allow you to do that in every other tactics RPG. Maybe not in all of them, but I would like to see the renown thing go away and actually have it be, just two separate things. Experience points and money. Because I don't really like the idea of having to combine them as just one thing. I understand the challenge of it, but if you're playing something that's, kind of punishing you, and it's just a little bit too hard at times, there's no real fun to be had. Games are supposed to be fun. They're not supposed to be a punishment. All in all, though, despite my complaints, and I know it sounds like that I'm just bitching and moaning, but I did have a bit of a hard time with it, but in the end, I did enjoy myself. I was really liking the game. I really like the story and the way it ends. I look forward to the sequel, and I've, been supporting the hell out of this, so much so that I bought it again on the PlayStation 4 just so I could play it again. And I'm planning on playing it again for a freaking Let's Play, so how much does that tell you that I like it? This gets a recommendation, but I would say, though, probably get it on Steam. I actually wonder if many of those glitches or those problems aren't as relative on the Steam version, but if you don't have a very good PC and if you just prefer to play on console, you can get it on PlayStation 4, and I believe it's also on Xbox One. It's only $20, and I have to imagine that it's probably going to go on sale at some point, or maybe even be free for PlayStation Plus subscribers, or maybe even Xbox Gold. This is a good strategy RPG tactics game. It does have a lot of its own flaws, namely, there will be some glitches from time to time with story elements, where somebody mentions about a character from a previous bit of the story who is now with us, even though in the earlier playthrough that I was playing, he wasn't with us. So that was a little odd, but during my second playthrough he was, so that made more sense. Obviously there was a bit of an error, but yeah, it's just, it's weird things like that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I look forward to playing it again. I'm going to try and make some new and different decisions just to see what happens, who I can save, and those various things. And I will be playing it on easy mode because, good fucking God, I'm not putting myself through that misery again. So, anyway, in fact, let me know what you guys think of the Banner Saga. Have you played it? What do you think about it? Please hit the like and subscribe button if you did enjoy this. I would greatly appreciate it. You can check me out on Twitter at JMeriT709. Stay tuned for that playthrough and stay tuned for more. I'll see you guys next time.